Hi, welcome to my channel. It's Bekah's Bookshelves. I'm Bekah and this video today is going to be my July wrap up. I'll start by holding my hands up and admitting I failed miserably in July. It just felt really slumpy and I just couldn't get into things as much as I normally do, and books just seemed to be taking ages for me to get through. So for the first time in a very long time, I did not finish all of my TBR. So I did not read World War Z, I did not read My Best Friend's Exorcism, and I did not read the arc of Secrets of a Serial Killer. So those, except My Best Friend's Exorcism, are being moved over to August, and I'm hoping to get through them then. So that being said, let's have a look at the stats for July. Okay, so I read 1 5-star, 9 4-stars, 2 3-stars, 3 2-stars, and 0 1-star. So I guess all those 4 stars are quite good, but 1 5-star? I mean, maybe it was just me, or maybe it was the books. I've no idea. And the 5-star that I did read was an arc called Raising a Rare Girl by Heather Lanier. This was the kind of parent memoir of caring for a daughter who was unexpectedly born with a very rare genetic condition, and obviously all the associated health problems with it. And it was very raw, very honest, and those are the things that I absolutely loved about it, because it would have been so easy to write about how, you know, she rose to the challenge and she never ever had a negative thought, and, you know, she was just fighting for her daughter the whole time. But what Heather did was kind of admit her humanity, basically. She talked about the negative thoughts she had and the wanting to give up at times, and this, you know, some of the horrible feelings that she had about not being able to cope, and about, you know, she didn't sign up for this. She wanted to be a mum. She expected to have this perfect super baby. She did not go into pregnancy and parenthood planning to have a child with such significant problems. And she talks about that, and it was absolutely fantastic. But at the very same time, she also talks about finding hope and appreciating the small things in life, and, you know, not letting things get too much. So yeah, that was a fantastic memoir. And so this month I read Stephen King's The Institute, and this was my first ever proper Stephen King book, if I ignore Elevation and pretend it doesn't really exist, because I wasn't that keen on it. I didn't get it. So The Institute is basically, there's children across America who show some kind of telekinesis or telepathy powers, and these children are, you know, kidnapped and taken to the Institute, where they are then experimented on, and kind of have their powers sort of enhanced, but then abused by this authority who runs the Institute. And yeah, it was like very kind of like sci-fi. It was like a really weird vibe to it. It wasn't, I didn't think it was creepy at all, and it wasn't scary, but then there's like this underlying kind of feeling of what if this could be real. Like, you don't know. I mean, the Institute could exist in real life. But yeah, it was just, I really enjoyed it. It did take a long time to get into the story, and I've been told by other Stephen King readers that that's normal for his books. There was like a character storyline at the beginning that then just suddenly stopped dead and didn't come back into it until like much later on in the book. And obviously I knew they'd kind of connect somewhere, but yeah, but it was really good. It's just like a different reading experience from what I'm used to with, you know, the shorter kind of paperback thriller type things. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely be reading another Stephen King book. And then I read an arc called Adrians Awakening by Mindy Shoneman. This actually featured in my 12-hour in 15 hour something reading challenge in another video. I've talked about it in depth, so I'm not going to go into it here at all, but I will link the other video down below in case you're interested. Basically, this is a young girl in her like early 20s, I think. She discovers that she's got telepathy powers. Wow, there's a bit of a theme here. Yeah, so she's got these mind reading powers, and she discovers that members of her family have also got it, and then there's like, you know, a big bad evil that has to be conquered and things like that. And yeah, it basically, it surprised me. I wasn't expecting great things, and it was 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. And then there was an audiobook called Traces by Patricia Wiltshire. Can't say it. This is a memoir of a forensic scientist who works with the police quite a lot, and it was about, basically, she's like, she deals with like pollen and spores from plants and all this kind of stuff, and she can take a sample of, like, say, a criminal's the bottom of the trainers with the tread and the soil on the bottom, and she can identify where they've been based on the kind of pollen levels and the bits of leaves and plants and the soil nutrients and all this stuff. I'm rubbish at explaining it because I don't really know much about it, but it was absolutely fascinating. Like, oh my god, this was one of those books where I was just like, right, nothing on my TBR is appealing. I just want to listen to something different. Oh, let's have a look. And I just had a look on the app that I use, and I thought, do you know what? I've had this on there for ages. Let's give it a go. And I really, really loved it. It was so good. I also listened to They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and I can't tell you anything because it would spoil the story, but basically it's kind of like in a future world where there's people who can predict the date of somebody's death, and they then ring that person and say, right, you know, this is your end date kind of thing, and then they then can decide how they want to live their last day. But they don't actually know how they're going to die or at what point during that day, just it's in that 24 hours they will die. And there's like an online app type thing where you can find like an end date buddy who's got like the same end date as you, and you can go off together and do fun things or whatever you're doing. And yeah, it was lovely. It was just 2 boys who kind of build a bit of a relationship, and they go and try all these fun things, and it was a lovely book. I did really enjoy it, and it really did deserve the 4 stars. And I also listened to Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. This is sort of a coming of age story type thing. The main character is gender fluid, and it's kind of a story of the everyday life basically, and this person is in high school, and it's how they get through the day and the struggles that they have, the challenges, how people view them, and then also how they try and come to terms with it themselves, and how they then try to explain it to their friends and family, and also, you know, the difficulties of having a relationship with somebody else, as in a romantic relationship. And it was just fantastic. This is something that I know very little about, to be honest. As much as I've read books about it, with characters who are, you know, gender fluid, non-binary, trans, things like that, and as much as I've tried to watch YouTube documentaries or short videos, I still feel like I don't know very much. but it's something that I am working on, and I really did enjoy this book, and it kind of opened me up to thinking about how some other people experience things that maybe I wouldn't have thought were that big of an issue just from, you know, the outside of it. And then I read an arc of Just a Girl by Scarlett Jones. This is it's a child abuse memoir. Scarlett was abused in every way possible, like any way you could think of, mental, emotional, sexual, also, you know, physically. She was just taken advantage of by several men, and in horrific ways. And she just kind of very honestly and openly documents the abuse that she suffered and the situation she found herself in right up to being an adult, and then how she managed to get herself out of that situation and what she's then gone on to do with her life. And it was hard to read, but it was just fantastic at the end when you see that she's managed to not let her past define her. And I read Tender is the Flesh by, I'm going to have to read this because I have no chance, Agostina Bazterrica, possibly. So Tender is the Flesh is like a dystopian story. Basically, it's set in the future where some kind of virus has spread throughout the world, and it's only infected animals and birds and things like that. So it's made those things completely poisonous to humans, so humans have no way of accessing any meat other than to eat human meat. Now, the consumption of human meat has been legalised, and there are breeding farms, I guess you would call them, where humans are bred and raised purely for their meat, like we do for cows and sheep and things like that. And so it's about cannibalism, and there are some graphic scenes where, you know, the actual butchering of humans and the cooking and the consumption of humans is very explicitly detailed. But personally, I didn't find it gruesome and gory, because if you've ever read Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, it's that kind of same detached clinical feel to things where there's not a lot of emotion behind what's going on, so then it doesn't then give you those feelings and the emotion. It was just very like really scripted and clinical of this is how we cut them up, this is what we do, this is what we eat. So it was a really great story. I did really enjoy the book. It just wasn't what I was expecting, because I heard cannibalism and thought, oh my god, it's going to be like proper messed up. And it kind of was, but it wasn't. But yeah, still 4 stars. I did enjoy it. And then I listened to the audiobooks of this. Now, you can't blame me for these. A friend decided to get me into them. Beautiful Creatures by Cami Garcia. I listened to the first 2, so it was like Beautiful Creatures and Beautiful Darkness, and they're just YA, easy, paranormal, you know, forbidden romance type stuff, and yeah, they were fun. Nothing to shout about. And now we're on to the 3 stars, and this just believe me when I say this pains me. This hurts me in here to say this, but Horrorstor by Grada Hendrix was a 3 star. Oh my god. I predicted this would be a 5 star. I was incredibly excited to read it. I thought it was something that it really wasn't. Turns out it's a ghost story. And this also features in the 12-hour reading challenge video. So you can get my actual reactions at the time of reading it from there. But yeah, it just I don't even know what to say about it, because it just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I think I was promised. And yeah, I mean, the concept is great, but it just didn't do it for me at all, and I'm absolutely gutted about that. And then NetGalley introduced audiobooks mid-July, I think it was. And so I was like, whoa, come on, let's get some audiobooks. And I went onto the Listen Now section and chose one off there, and it was Untold Mayhem by Mark Tullius. It's basically an anthology of horror stories, and as usual with anthologies, I really enjoyed some, and then some I was a bit like, meh. So I kind of just like met in the middle and did it as a 3-star. There was a few, I think there was like 3 stories that I would have said were 5-star, and then there was a few 2 stars that kind of, yeah. But what I did really like about it is, one, there was a different narrator for each story, so that made it more like easier and more obvious when you was transitioning from the end of one story to the other. Like when you was listening in one kind of long audio, the stories were kind of sectioned really well. And also there was like a wide range of horror stories. So there was ones that were a bit like creepy, and then there were ones that were like suspense, and then there were ones that didn't even seem like a horror story until like the last minute of the audio, and then there was like this major twist, and it had turned into like some messed up freaky thing. And then there was some body horror in there and some gruesome stuff, and then there was some ghosts and stuff like that. And it was just great how there was like something for everybody in there. It's just a shame that there was some that I personally didn't quite rate very high, and that kind of brought it to a 3-star, but I always find that with anthologies anyway. I was looking at the NetGalley Listen Now audiobooks again, and I spotted the new Alex North book, which is The Shadows, and I actually own, just off screen, The Whisper Man. I've never read it, however, I saw loads of people talking about it when it first came out. Everyone was raving on about how great it was. So when I saw this Alex North novel on NetGalley, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have that one. I'm definitely going to listen to it. I want the creep factor, everything. And I didn't get it at all. There were just so many characters, and a lot of them were very similar. And there was also, it was either the same narrator or it were people with very similar voices. So I found it very difficult to keep up with who was who and who'd done what. And I think that kind of story probably would have been better actually physically reading it, so I could kind of skip back to stuff, because that's quite difficult to do with audio. And so I just ended up not really understanding the story, not feeling any kind of thriller suspense type feelings, and unfortunately I just gave it a 2-star in the end. And I think possibly that may have been part of my understanding of it as opposed to how well it was written. And then I read an arc of 30 Red Dresses by Johan Twiss. This is, it was dubbed to be like a thriller based in Cambodia, and the main character is a man in his 60s, and he happens to come across a large group of young girls, and I mean like children, girls, not young women, who are being held prisoner in a brothel, and they are being abused sexually and prostituted out. And there's like some kind of disaster in the area, and he is trying to rescue these children, one from this disaster that's happening, and 2 from this brothel and from the owner. And years ago, before I had my first son, I actually worked in sorry, there's a fly. I actually worked in Cambodia, well, volunteered in Cambodia, working in an orphanage for children who were at risk of abuse, whether that be sexual or sold into the, the slave labour trade, or illegal adoptions, black market stuff, things like that. And I was hoping that this book would take me back there. And because I've seen these stories in real life, I was hoping that this book would raise like awareness of the situation and of the country. And unfortunately, I don't think it hit the mark at all. It had this really weird paranormal, supernatural type element to it, where the main little girl in the story could see people's energy colours and stuff, and I just don't think it was needed in this type of story at all. And there wasn't much scene setting. Like, you could have taken this story and put it in basically in any poor country or any Asia, any kind of Asian setting, and it just would have been the exact same story. And I just don't think it represented Cambodia and their struggles at all, to be honest. So that was 2 stars for me. And Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I don't understand this book at all. Oh my god, it numbed my brain completely. It's in the future, in space. There's a caste system. The reds are on the bottom, I think, and they're used for like labour, and they're told that the world, the earth isn't safe or whatever it is. And then a guy tries to infiltrate the highest caste, and I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't get the story at all. So that was my July. I'm really hoping that August is going to be better. So if you have read any of these books and want to discuss them with me, please comment below or get in touch on Instagram. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you all soon. Bye.